Welcome back. We are talking about Terminator films. We talked T1 in part 1, now of course part 2, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. My absolute favorite movie of all time. It's been ever since I first saw it when I was a little kid. Saw it far sooner than I probably should have, considering that, you know, somebody gets like stabbed in their eyeball and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a movie that I have seen more than any other movie that I have ever owned or anything like that. As much as I know about The Simpsons, the first 10 seasons of that, I know about Terminator 2. I've watched the special extended edition with commentary more times than I've watched some of my other favorite movies.
Wow.
Which is crazy. It is just the fucking best. And I will already spoil, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I just love this movie. So I will bounce around like crazy, saying a lot of really stupid things that are like nerdy as hell, but hey, that'll be fun, right? So to give you a little backstory about this, Terminator 2 came out in 1991, although it takes place in 1995. And they give you a whole lot more backstory of what happens in the future. They actually tell you when Judgment Day happens, August 29th, 1997. And for those that have the special, the Ultimate Edition DVD, if you type in 82997, that's where you can see the extended edition with all the deleted scenes mixed in. It's a little Easter egg that they throw in the DVD. But we follow not only Sarah from the previous film, but we also get introduced to John Connor, played by a completely unknown actor. They found him just after doing scouts and, you know, trying to find a young kid, and they were just like, oh, Edward Furlong, this guy seems good for the part. John's 10 years old now, and he is a total delinquent because he's grown up with a mom who teaches him how to blow shit up and stuff. He's got foster parents that are assholes, Todd and Janelle, and Sarah's locked up in a mental institution, Pescadero, and this movie is a good way to flip things on its axis. You would expect that a sequel would follow along and maybe, you know, another soldier from the future gets sent back, and then the Terminator, it's the same Terminator again or whatever, but they decided to go a different route. And before they actually, like, had the internet where you can have people spoil things and stuff like that, the trailers for this market it as Arnold as the villain, where they actually do this kind of in the first couple of scenes, too. They reverse the expectations. You see the T-1000 as a cop, and the
And a really
T-800
nice, gentle guy.
Yeah,
right, like he's
guy.
not cold like Schwarzenegger was.
Mm-hmm.
He's friendlier. He smiles, like he's engaging.
Yeah,
and then when you
a biker,
and he's still cold like in the first one.
yeah, he, you know, fucks shit up. He stabs somebody in the back, and that's another great line of somebody delivering it weird. Oh, pull it out. He fucks shit up, and then you see the T-1000, and he, you know, they purposely don't show you him stabbing the cop. It makes you think that he just punched him. And he takes his stuff, and, you know, you're assuming the cop's the good guy, the dangerous biker's the bad one. But, you know, in repeat viewings and stuff, you start seeing, like, the total difference of how he doesn't actually really hurt anybody all that much. Like, the T-800, I mean, he tosses the one guy over and he lands on top of the stove, but that guy's going to walk away. The guy with the, you know, stabbed through the shoulder or whatever, they're going to pull it out and he's going to be fine. You know, he doesn't kill the guy who gives him the shotgun. He just takes his glasses. And
then it creates that iconic scene where he's got like the box of roses and then it falls.
Yeah.
Shotgun.
That is one of my favorite parts of this movie.
I love that.
Yeah.
Not only is it just cool imagery, but it's like a good, I don't know, like a way to kind of showcase the beauty behind death.
Oh, that was so deep, Tony. I love that. I'm not even joking. Like that was pretty.
Because, I mean, eventually it's going to happen. That's the story of this film, is Judgment Day is still going to happen. Like, you you know, everything's great at the end of, well, not everything's great, but, you know, at the end of Terminator 1, the storm's coming. And in Terminator 2, 10 years have gone by, and the storm still hasn't gone yet, but that's because it's coming up in 2 years. And,
Right.
you know, there's this kind of, like, impending doom, and at the same time, though, it's like, you know that what this is supposed to build toward is them winning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, it needs to happen for them to win, but it would be so much better if it didn't happen, like that kind of a thing. We'll talk about that too. Oddly enough, though, in this movie, and they've pointed this out before, and it was lost on me a little bit until I read stuff about it, and I, you know, watched the commentary for the first time and stuff years and years ago. But they really point out Sarah Connor is the real Terminator in this movie.
Huh.
She's like, the first time you see her, what is she doing? She's working out. She's like deranged looking. She's already been locked
She stabbed
up.
the guy in the knee.
Yeah, like she almost kills Miles Dyson later on.
Yeah,
that's
the
what-
experiences from the first movie have really messed her up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've warped her into a killing machine. And while she's doing things like, you know, hunting down Miles Dyson, the T-800's learning how to joke around.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really cool, different parallel, and that's just amazing that they do that kind of stuff.
And even though the T-1000 was better at adapting and better at mimicking human interaction, really you can almost say by the end of it that the T-800 is almost humanized.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he actually begins to feel for John.
Yeah.
Even the delivery of the different lines that he says, I mean, the beginning of it, it's just like, get down now, and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And by the end, it's, you know, John, you
Now
have to
I
go.
know why you cry. Oh god.
Such a good line.
I actually, I when I rewatched this for the podcast, I actually cried on the alone. Like, oh my god, yes, Arnold, yes, we all cry.
I'll admit, I almost cry every time I'm watching the movie.
Yeah.
Because it's sad as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
I know now why you cry, but it's something I will never be able to do. And, it, you know, it's like, it's just sad.
It's like Short Circuit, but horrifying.
But even though they have their sad lines, they have their funny ones, and some of them are unintentionally funny. I always love the scene where the T-1000 is trying to find John in his step home, or foster home, and he's just like, you know, do you have a picture of John? Do you mind if I keep this picture? He's a good-looking boy.
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and take it, you know.
That's kind of when you know that his foster parents didn't really care, because I feel like as a mom, you'd be like, why do you want a picture of my son?
Especially
Why?
because they
Is he
say
in trouble?
another guy was looking for him earlier, a big dude on a bike.
Yeah, that wearing leather, like, is that okay? No.
Yeah, well, okay, well, you could just take the picture. Just, you know, just go find our son who's doing something or whatever. That weird group that they've got going with Todd and Janelle and John and Budnick from Salute Your Shorts is so amazing. And one of my favorite lines in the whole film that nobody ever remembers, and I'm sure you guys will be like, what? It's just, you've got You Could Be Mine playing in the background, Guns N' Roses, and John and Budnick are on the motorcycle, and instead of singing along with it, you know, it's a cold heartbreaker, fit to burn, like a lot of really catchy lyrics and stuff like that. There's just a shot where Budnick's bobbing his head and he just goes, bow. Like, what the, this, it went into the final product of the movie. I'm just kind of like, yeah, bow, that one scene. Another line that stands out to me as something that always makes me laugh is when another great scene, fantastic scene, where the T-800 and John are talking about you know, the mission and what's going on and stuff like that, and Arnold grabs him a little bit, and the muscle-headed guys can see that something's happening, and, you know, they come over with a whole, hey, goddammit, what's your problem, damn it? And one of the guys come over, and it's like, hey, kid, you need some help? And he's like, yeah, take a hike, bozo. He's like, oh, wait, come on, man, let's go. And the guy who looks like he is still stuck in the 80s.
Yes, glorious.
He has a great delivery for the line. He's like, fuck you, you little dipshit. Did you call moi a dipshit?
A dipshit?
Oh god, I love that scene so much. It's
He's
so
such a
cringy.
douche. Like, John is an asshole. Like, he is such a dick in this movie.
But you know what? Realistically, he would be.
Yeah.
He's what, like 10 years old, 9 years old?
Yeah, he's a 10-year-old kid,
He's
and
10.
he's grown up with a psychotic mom, and he's got foster parents that don't give a shit about him, and
He
got a
wouldn't-
friend who
he
doesn't know
wouldn't-
lyrics.
Right, he wouldn't realistically mature until he was like maybe in his early 20s even.
Mm-hmm.
So like it makes total sense that he wouldn't be the savior of humanity at this point. Now T3 kind of ruins it, but at this point, he really shouldn't be a tough, battle-hardened kid. He should be a douche.
But he still knows this stuff. Like, they have that scene where the whole easy money thing, he hacks into the ATM, because, like,
Right.
John
Yeah,
should
I
know
love that scene.
machines. And he can load the guns perfectly fine. He knows his shit. Like,
Right.
it's just that he doesn't have the war to fight, so he's bored. Like, he's the kind of situation where if you're really intelligent, sometimes in school you do really poorly. Because you're just like, this is boring, I know it. And John's like, oh, I'm the fucking leader of humanity in the future and stuff. If that happens, and if not, I'm still badass. And, she's not my mother, Todd. Like, that kind of shit where it's just like, oh, fuck everybody, man. And gets a good dose of reality, though, when he sees that, this T-1000's attacking him. Fun fact about this whole thing.
Right.
Talk about the mall here. Actually, there's a couple things about the mall, but I mentioned Bill Paxton in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
The two little girls that the T-1000 is talking to, and the one says, I think he said he's going to the Galleria, is the actress Nikki Cox, who was in the TV show Unhappily Ever After.
Huh.
And Las Vegas, I think is the name of it, or whatever. If you saw her, you'd probably recognize her, but she was big in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, something like that.
Yeah. I like when the T-1000 showing the picture to all the kids and asking if they've seen him. The one kid points him out. I just remember watching it the first time, like, fucking narc.
Yeah, he's really there. Even that, though, they're playing games in there, and John's playing one about saving humanity.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's playing another game, and it's about piloting a freaking military plane. Like, he just gravitates towards it.
Yeah, which is why T3 makes no goddamn sense.
Oh, man.
Other thing that happens in the mall, there's two shots that are, actually, they're both, like, in the same thing, but they reference each other. The composer of the first film and the second one, Brad Fiedel, shows up in the mall, too. There's a shot where Arnold gets thrown through the glass in the exact same fashion that he falls in Terminator 1, the Tech Noir scene. And when he gets up, there's a guy standing there holding a camera, like a tourist kind of guy, and he just looks like, what the fuck? That's Brad Fiedel, the same composer. And it's right around the same thing where they show that mannequin, the silver mannequin, kind of foreshadowed the T-1000's look later on. The corridor scene with the roses.
That's so cool.
That first gunshot is made up of so many different sound effects. It's a rifle in a canyon. It's
what? Really?
Yeah, they have this whole breakdown on the DVD where they show you, like, they originally had just like a shotgun, and it kind of sounds weak. And then here's a rifle in a canyon, and here's a rifle in a canyon with an echo, and here's all this mixed together, and it becomes that huge bam kind of thing. But when they shoot him, they needed to cut down on the CGI, of course. Any of the shots where it's not like a moving thing that's healing on the T-1000 in that corridor, it's just aluminum foil. They just, like, taped it to him.
And that's just, like, so cool.
He, like, shoots him, and, the shot happens, it cuts to after he's already been shot, so you don't need to see it, like, coming out, kind of.
Right.
I mentioned earlier the scene where John tells the Terminator not to kill anybody. Amazing. Helps set up a lot of the movie.
I love when he shoots out the guy's kneecaps, and he's like, what the hell are you doing?
He'll live.
He'll live.
Visiting hours are 9 to 4. Ah, my fucking knees. I got a wife and kids.
Can I just talk about like the very first scene with the biker club real quick?
Oh yeah.
I just read something online that while they were shooting that, well, the night they were shooting that scene, this tourist lady had no idea they were shooting a movie, and she walked into the bar thinking it was just like a real biker bar, and then she saw, even though there were trucks everywhere with lights and catering and whatnot, and then she saw Arnold just wearing boxers, and she actually asked him like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just stripper night." And she actually bought it, and she wanted to sit in the bar, but then I guess like the PAs or the AD were like, sorry, this is actually a movie set." And I thought that was really cute.
I wonder if that's the inspiration for T3.
Maybe.
Which, god damn it, T3. Let's see here. We got,
I wonder if that's still gonna be one of your worst movies ever after you watch this next one.
It better
the
be.
Genesis.
Genesis better not be worse than T3.
I have a feeling it's probably going to be a little bit better than Salvation was, but maybe not much.
Yeah, probably on par.
And it's coming out July 1st, right?
Yep, I'll be seeing it June 30th.
Side note, can people shut up about spoilers? Where they're showing John as a Terminator in the trailers. Why are they spoiling the movie? It's obviously not a spoiler. No, it's obviously not a spoiler, dumbass, if they're showing it in the fucking trailer.
I'm convinced he's not John, but we'll see.
I'm gonna say they either, tried to replicate him and make him think he was John Connor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's what I think.
He looks cool.
He looks
but
cool, yeah.
At least when he's in, Terminator form, he looks really cool, but other than that...
That brings up a good point, though. When they were going to make Terminator 2, they were trying to think of sequel ideas, and naturally you might think, well, they could just do another thing, Arnold's the bad guy and stuff like that, or whatever. But one idea that they had was, well, what if there's 2 Terminators? And then it was like, yeah, that's really kind of lame, though, to just be like, well, they fought 1 Terminator the first time, what if they fought 2 this time? But then that got them thinking, and they were like, well, what if there was a good Terminator instead? And the T-1000 is a huge upgrade, and they've kind of made it where Terminator 3 kind of messes it up a little bit, but there's a different form of Terminator in each different series. T-800 in Terminator 1, T-1000 in Terminator 2. They mention the T-600 in Terminator 1, and it's one of the things that's fun about this. I always think it's weird. They go, 600 series had the rubber skin. They never mention 700, but then they go to 800. They never mention 900.
That was a messed up one.
Yeah. They never mention 900. And then they go to 1,000, and then they go to TX because they're fucking lame. But
I always just imagine that the series went every 2.
I always just kind of went with the 700 probably had different type of skin that still wasn't as good. Maybe that was silicone, and then the T800 has the real skin. The T900. Maybe that's something where that's, well, actually, the T900, I think, is what they used for Cameron in the TV show. And I'm not too sure about that, though, so don't quote me on it. But the worst thing possible, though, is the 3D ride after Terminator 2. That's the T1 million. And then, oh, give me a break. But,
wait,
Terminator...
the ride at Universal?
Yeah. It's
I
T1
love
million.
that one. It was so cool.
It was cool, but it's you wouldn't even have the T3000. It's the T1 million. This one's 10 times better, even though it's the exact same thing. It's just got a lot of tendrils. But...
And that brings me another question about, since we're talking about the different types of Terminators, the cop one. I'm sorry, I'm bad with numbers and letters all together.
That was T-1000.
He's made of liquid metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he arrives in the present, he's naked, and then he steals the clothes from the cop. But then after he changes himself to pretend to be John's foster mom, he becomes liquid metal again. But once he comes back to himself, he's wearing the cop clothes.
A lot of people have been trying to figure that out. And
what is it? What is it she said?
Okay. So he arrives in the present naked, right? So
Right.
that's like his form.
It's
And
skin,
then
yeah.
when he pretends to be John's foster mom, he becomes her. And then after he kills the dads, he switches back into his regular form. But when he comes back into being the cop, he's wearing the cop clothes and he's just not naked anymore. It's almost like the clothes have become part of the liquid metal. Like
What
when
I,
he's like,
my assumption was always he came in that skin,
uh-huh.
and then he put on the cop clothes, but throughout the film when he was morphing into other people, I think he realized that my assumption was he just ripped off the skin and the metal body like took on flesh and clothes.
Oh, so he like mimics like whatever.
It was I always assumed it was mimicking.
Well, they
Because
call it mimetic polyalloy.
Right.
Oh.
That's why it's able to...
So he had to have come back with the skin on.
Yeah, that's something that people have been like criticizing the movie for. They say, well, if the Terminator has to have the skin on to come back, what's the T-1000? And some people have said, well, what if there's kind of like a thin like layer that he sheds kind of like a snake? Or what if there's something where maybe like part of the alloy itself, maybe it's got like skin cells or something.
I mean, it makes sense what Sam said, though, because if he's a highly adaptable, like, he already knows how humans interact. Like, he's able to pretend he's a cop and not get anybody nervous around him. It makes
he can
sense
get in
that
different areas and
he'll be able to then figure out how to mimic clothes as well. Because even when he changes into the mom, like, I don't think he killed her, took her clothes off, switched into her body, and then got dressed. Like, no. So that actually makes sense. And I just wanted to know what you guys thought about it. I wasn't sure if they said it in the movie somehow, and I didn't catch it. If there's like some sort of Terminator law regarding that, I don't know.
No, they keep changing that stuff around.
Curious.
One thing that they did in the deleted scene, though, is they have him, after he's killed Todd and Janelle, he goes through the house and he's just like, goes through John's room and he runs his fingers over everything. And the reasoning behind it that they said was, since he can mimic stuff and whatever, that he reads information more through touch than through sight and sound. And,
that's cool.
You know, like he feels like his movie posters on the wall and, you know, runs his hands over like his bed and stuff like that to try to get like an indication of like what, kind of like how like a dog will sniff out things. And that's actually, I'm going to spoil that at the end of this kind of thing, but my least favorite scene is that scene because he kills the dog.
Shut up. But that's like
you don't kill dogs. Like that's just, you know, any movie that kills a dog is my least favorite scene. So
yeah, I agree.
But it makes sense because they hate the dogs in the future because they sniff them out. So, you know, but that's also when he looks at the collar and he notices that the dog's name's Max and not Wolfie. And that's when he's like, oh fuck, the Terminator got me on this. Like, so they should have kept it in there, but you know.
No, thank God they didn't. Because
one of my favorite deleted scenes that is something that is an extension. They show it at the beginning of the movie. They show it midway through at one point, and then they really elaborate on it. But Sarah keeps having a dream of the nuclear holocaust, and she...
Oh god, that nightmare sequence. Oh god.
Yeah.
Especially the way that she explains it, where she says they fly apart like leaves. Like, but before you see the full version of that, there's the scene after the orderly Dougie, hate that guy, when he tells her, Silberman, Dr. Silberman, when he tells Dougie, I don't like to see the patients disrupting the rooms, you know, you should take care of this and stuff. There's a deleted scene where they drug her. They hit her in the stomach with a nightstick, force her to take pills, and she passes out.
Yeah.
And there's like a dream sequence where she imagines Kyle, and he tells her like, you gotta be strong for John because John's the target now. And she's like, I know, but what can I do in here? And he's like, you know, you got to figure something out because our son's going to get killed at some point. And they share an embrace and whatever. And then he gets up and he starts walking away through the corridors. And she's like, you know, I still need you. And he's like, you're stronger than you imagine. But remember the message. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. And you have to do this. You have to get out or else, like, there's not much time left in the world. And not only is it cool to see Kyle, but it's cool to see, like, the love that they still have, kind of, even though it's a dream, but that she still, like, loves him.
Right.
And when he's leaving the hospital and she's chasing after him in the dream, he leaves through the door that when she opens it opens up right to the park, and she starts having the dream again, and then she wakes up and stuff. But there's another really great scene in the hospital that it ties into that, and that's it's not an interrogation, but it is. It kind of calls back to the interrogation of the first movie. Where
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, they're interviewing her about should they be able to transfer her to a minimum security thing. And a good showcase of her being able to, like, put her emotions aside and try to, like, manipulate them a little bit. And Silverman, though, of course, is just kind of like, you're telling me what I would need to hear, you know, whatever. But that goes to show you that she's not nuts.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I think that this dream that you just talked about also touches on a very important point. Like, Kyle is telling her to be strong because John is the target. And then once she sees John again, when she's out of the hospital, she's, like, fairly cold towards him. Like, she's not, like, motherly. It's almost like she's playing the soldier part. And I feel like that was also such a great choice for the movie, because we would expect her to be like, oh, my little son, and be just a mess. And
no, you know what part gets me every time is how she's been this cold, calculating soldier the entire movie, and as soon as she sees the Terminator for the first time, she almost pisses herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
Like, it doesn't.
because it's the same Terminator. Like,
right.
He's back, and she just starts squealing and turning around, and it's like, I'd rather be locked up.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter how prepared she is or how much training she's had. Seeing him is just a living nightmare. And I love that.
Mm-hmm. Slow motion.
Because at the end of the day, she's still human.
Yeah.
And
she knows
it's kind of easy to forget that. Yeah.
She knows she could have all the training in the world. It's not going to save her from that.
Mm.
Right. Especially inside a tiny room in a mental institution.
Right.
Yeah, when the T-1000 breaks in there and he kills that one guard, there's actually a couple different twins that they use in the movie. The guard Lewis, who gets the full house in the coffee scene. The actor is there's two actors. They're twins. So that's how they were able to do that without trying to, like, you know, blow the CGI budget. Weird enough, though, at the end of the movie, when there's two Sarah Connors, Linda Hamilton's a twin, too.
Oh, really?
So that's her sister. Her sister's the one holding the shotgun, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. The one that says, move out of the way, John. So they were able to do that to save some on the budget there. Another little fun fact about the hospital thing, when they are in the elevator and they're shooting, you know, to try to make sure that they can shoot the T-1000 above them. She didn't put her earplugs in, and now she's partially deaf in one ear.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
because
man.
the echo in that's such a small area. And guns are loud as fuck.
Oh. Yeah. Oh my god.
Another weird thing, because I just know way too much about this movie, when they shoot at the cop and they take the cop car right after that scene, they shoot a marble into the window. Because they needed to make sure that little circle happened. So they actually, like, put a marble in a thing and shot it.
That is so cool.
weird stuff. But there's a deleted scene that I think plays up a lot of what they should have had in this movie. Because a lot of the movie really, there's a point in it where the action slows down. And some people argue that's
when they're in the junkyard.
When they escape the hospital and they're on the run and they're in the desert and
Yeah,
that
T-1000
junkyard area.
Yeah, T-1000 has no way to track them and stuff like that. So there's not really action and stuff. But that's where you really dig into a lot of the themes of the film, like Sarah's carving in the no fate in the table, and he's learning how to, become more human and stuff. One of the reasons why he does that is there's a deleted scene when they're stitching each other up in the abandoned, what's it called? I'm drawing a blank here. The gas station. There's a scene where they reset a switch in the Terminator. They actually, they drill a part of his head open, and they filmed the scene using a puppet and using Linda Hamilton's twin sister instead of a mirror, because it was just too hard to do it. And there's a switch that makes it to where he can learn more human emotions. When they take the chip out, Sarah gets a hammer and she immediately goes to smash it, and John stops her. He puts his hand over it, and she's like, "We have to kill it now, because it's a machine. Like, it's not on our side." And he starts arguing, and he really steps up in it. He says to her, "Look, if I'm supposed to be this great fucking leader, then maybe you should start listening to my ideas once in a while."
Aww.
And that's when she realizes, like, "You're right, you got me." And he's like, "We need the Terminator to stop the other one, and we need to just reset the switch and stuff." So when they do that, that pays off a little bit later on. They've got a great deleted scene. I recommend it for everybody, where they're in the desert area. This is, when they're getting the food and stuff. And he says, "You got to lighten up a little bit. You smile once in a while." And he's like, "Smile?" He's like, "Smile." And he goes, "That person over there, that's a smile." And the Terminator literally reads the smile, like the technical layout, and tries to do it. And he looks like this, weird, horse smile.
Yeah.
And John just goes, "That's good. Maybe you should practice in front of a mirror or something." And then he just gets this really pissed off look on his face, like, "Oh, fuck you, I like my smile."
I liked when Sarah was mentioning that he was almost like a father figure to John.
Yeah, that was nice.
Out of all the possible things, that's the one that makes the most sense, even though it makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
He would never hit John. He would never, be late for stuff. He would never, he would always take care of him and stuff. And that's another sad thing in the movie, too, because it's like, you forget, John grew up without a father.
Right.
He grew up in a mess up situation. His mom was locked up. He was,
and he doesn't know that his mom's not nuts until
right, because he thinks his mom's nuts at first.
Yeah. And there's so much shame in him when he's robbing the ATM, and he's like, "Yeah, my mom showed me how to do this," and his friend's like, "Oh, that's so cool," or something like that. He's like, "No, she's a nut. She's locked up," and you kind of see him being like, "Yeah, that's what I have to live up to," like my mom being a crazy maniac who has delusions, and that is so sad.
And it's a good turning point when he first sees the Terminator. And I'll bring this up in Terminator 3, too, because it pisses me the fuck off in this movie. But in Terminator 2, all he's got is the corridor scene. 2 seconds of get down. Oh my god, this dude just shot this other dude, and what the hell's going on? I'm gonna get the fuck away here. And then when they... he's on the bike and he says, "Stop, pull over, time out, whatever." Immediately he goes to, "Don't take this the wrong way, but you're a Terminator, right?" He knows it's a Terminator.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, "My mom was right. Oh, fuck." And from that point on in the movie, he never says anything bad about his mom again. It's always, "I have to go save my mom. I love her," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's when he realizes, I can't be mean to my mom. My mom was right, and all she's been doing is protecting me this whole time. And, with him not growing up with a dad, he knows his dad, is somebody in the future. But you can see a lot of, sadness in him, and kudos to Edward Furlong for pulling it off. when he's talking to the Terminator about it, and he says, you know, I guess I'm going to meet him when I'm 40 or something. It really messes around with your head. Like,
Yeah.
because it's tough enough for kids in real life to deal with, like, I don't know who my father is. But imagine if you were told you are going to meet your father when you're 40 and the world's ended. You're the most important person in the world. Make sure that you save your father's life, though, because you're going to send him back in time so he can die.
That is the one thing about Terminator Salvation that I'll give it credit for, is the desperation in John to save Kyle when he knows that he's in danger.
Yeah. Let's see some other things to point out here. There's a deleted scene where the T-1000 is glitching out, and you can see that he's starting to kind of lose. That happens after one of the best scenes of the movie, the liquid nitrogen. Hasta la vista, baby. Everybody fucking loves it. It's badass, you know.
Oh, definitely. I love the way it was filmed, too. It was filmed, I think, using mercury.
Yeah.
Really?
Pools of mercury, which they probably got so sick from. Oh, I actually have to backtrack a little bit. I skipped over Cyberdyne. There's a whole subplot, which thank God they did this. So they deleted it from the first film. That scene where she says, "I found Cyberdyne's building address. Let's go blow it up." Of course, Sarah's going to have the same mentality. Let's go blow up Cyberdyne, because that's why she gets arrested in the first place. She wants to do it. And they meet Miles Dyson. You know, they do the whole scene where she's about to kill him, and then she realizes that she's like a Terminator and she can't kill a human life.
Right.
And the fact that they had the arm and a lot of the stuff from the first Terminator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like they took the same things that they deleted from Terminator 1. They put it in there. That's why it's so great.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing when they introduced Miles Dyson and the intern guy with the lollipop.
Yes!
If you go back and watch the scene, there's this weird shot. I don't know what the actor was planning on doing here, but when he says, "Oh, you got to sign it out," and whatever, and he goes, "Can you tell me what it is?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, you know, I asked them the same question. You know what they told me? Don't ask." And the guy just nods his head forward in this weird, like, chicken kind of way. Always makes me laugh.
You know what's one thing that always makes me laugh? Is when they have Dyson with them at the end when they're, like, fighting it off, and he's about to, like, blow the building out, and he's like...
Yeah,
and then it slows and slows, and then...
That always made me laugh, too. It's just so weird.
It's so sad, though. Like, it's depressing, but it's kind of funny.
But it's redemptive, too, because this guy built the thing that destroys humanity, and he sacrifices his life for it.
Yeah.
You know, he realizes he clutches onto the trigger, and he's just kind of like, I'll do it, you know, I'm fucked anyway, but I also kind of deserve it because I did this. And I do hate his wife, though, how she's just kind of like, "Jesus, Miles, oh my God, aren't we changing the future now?" And he's like, "Nope." Like,
I always kind of liked how she freaks out when he starts slicing the skin off his arm.
yeah, she doesn't even know what's coming next, but she's just like, he's cutting his arm. Ah!
Yeah, like, what would you think? That guy is doing that to himself? What is he gonna do that? Like, what is he gonna do to me, then?
Right.
Right.
Little Danny sitting there playing with a remote control car, but you don't see the daughter, because the daughter's only in a deleted scene. So it just becomes like Danny, and that's it, the only important one. But there's a really good set of sequences with Cyberdyne. There's the payoff of the whole thing with "don't kill anybody," where he does the whole, "that's a war zone down here." A great scene with the minigun, which that's actually a real minigun that he was just carrying. Like, they needed like 4 people to lift it up, but Schwarzenegger could do it.
Of course he could.
Nice.
He's fucking Schwarzenegger. Great scene with that. There's another funny line that's one of my favorite lines out of any movie ever, which is when they take the security guard, the watchman, and they tie him up in the room, and then the other security guard comes and he's like, "Gibbons, come on, man, you can't keep leaving the desk like that." Oh shit. Poor old Gibbons.
Reminds me of the guy from Jurassic Park. I always just know him as Newman.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you can't-
yeah.
Like when Samuel L. Jackson rolls up, workstation, and just knocks everything over.
Dodson, we got Dodson here. See, nobody cares. There's a great part, the whole "trust me" scene, where he kneecaps all the guards and stuff, all the SWAT team members, and but that's another good thing where it goes to show you that the Terminator is actually starting to learn stuff, because he smiles when he says "trust me."
Yeah.
So that's the payoff of the smile moment that got deleted, and a good callback with the whole "get out." I love how they do that. And "I'll be back," of course, comes back, and it's the iconic line.
Before it got just fucking overplayed.
Yeah, even in Terminator 3.
Yeah. Then they're just forcing it.
So, what do you guys think about the ending being in the molten steel factory?
Oh my god, that iconic T-1000 death. You know how many things have been ripped off from that?
It's horrifying. He swallows its own head.
Right.
And the sounds it's making, that screeching.
It's probably never been... I don't know. I don't remember the backstory on it. But isn't it the first T-1000? It's not like there was a ton of them. Wasn't it designed... So. It was designed specifically to go back? So it probably never has experienced death. That's kind of weird to say, but
yeah,
it probably didn't know this was an option.
Right.
Well, it is no option. I mean, they're gonna keep doing it until they're dead. But I always wondered, did they ever use that vat for anything else later on? Is there a T-1000 built into some bridges or something? Because they didn't extract it. And what did they do with the leftover arm? Because Arnold's arm gets chopped off in the one gear. And they don't throw that in the molten lava. No, lava. It's not lava. The molten steel.
Right.
So I always thought that would have been Terminator 3. That they found the arm.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
There's no chip. Which that's kind of fucked up. But
Which, I mean, would there be... the thing is liquid metal. They don't even go into how a chip would even be in there. There's got to be some kind of core to it, but there isn't. So I don't know how the thing's even functioning.
I think at that point that's because they're it's a movie,
Not that it was so realistic in the first Terminator, but now they're all right, it's a liquid metal Terminator. Be damned with the science. It exists. Go.
Then we get the saddest scene of the whole movie: the thumbs up.
Oh man, with that song playing,
the saddest version of that, except for maybe even the love scene in Terminator 1. But that's just that's a heart puncher.
Yeah.
The thumbs up of just I'm okay, buddy, and I order you not to go, and the whole, oh man, it's rough to get through it, but it's it shows you, and they pointed out in what I think is the true ending, because there's a deleted ending to it. The movie, the normal cut of the movie ends with that shot of the road.
Yeah.
And she's saying we're gonna move on in the futures, we'll fight it, basically, But
I forget. Does the movie end on the fact that they think Judgment Day is over?
No, that they aren't sure about it.
Okay.
That they're we think that it's over, but
you never really know.
You never really know, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep our watch and, but we'll be able to handle it, kind of thing.
Which makes no sense for when T3 is but we stopped it.
Yeah. Well, the deleted ending to it, which in my mind is the canon ending to it, and I refuse to believe anything else, it's in the future. They're at the same playground that she's been having the nightmare with.
Uh-huh.
And she gives a voiceover similar to what she does in the first part of the movie, where she says, 3 billion human lives ended in 1997. And she says, August 29th, 1987 came and went. Nothing happened. Michael Jackson turned 40. People got up. They argued with each other. They went to work. They made love. They did everything else. And all I wanted to do was scream through the streets that every day's a gift and you don't understand. But instead I got drunk. And she says that now they show her she's an old woman, and she's it still haunts me that this is going to happen, but I know that it isn't, and that this future is past because John now fights the battle in a different way. He's a senator.
Oh.
And he's got a little girl, and he's pushing her on the swing. And I'm getting choked up. This is ridiculous. And she, the little girl says, she goes over to her and she's like, "Oh, can you tie my shoe, Granny?" And she ties the shoe and whatever. And she's given like the voice recorder, like that's what she's doing the voiceover for. And she says, you know, like, it's basically the whole thing, like, you know, this is a gift and all this other kind of stuff like that. And the future is, it really is, there's no fate but what we make for ourselves. But she has a great line, and it makes so much more sense when it comes to this ending. She says, "If a machine can learn the value of a human life, maybe we can too." And that's how the movie ends.
That's awesome.
Aww.
And that's like perfect for it, because it means there's no horrible future. John is still one of the most important people in the world and stuff like that. But, you know, she says his weapons now are logic and common sense and reason, not plasma rifles and shit.
Right.
You know, she had a shitty life, and that's why she still gets drunk and stuff. But she set up, you know, everything. She saved the human race with John, and like, I just absolutely love it. But
yeah,
me,
but you know what?
Ending.
But that doesn't open it up for any sequels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they probably wanted to make it a trilogy.
Mm-hmm. So
it's kind of like the argument I did with X-Men: Days of Future Past. Why did you show the nice future? Because now we know X-Men Apocalypse isn't going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So it's like, if they had that in the movie and then there's Terminator 3, it's like, oh, well, they're going to stop it, right, guys?
I still say, side note on Days of Future Past, I still say that should have been the end. They shouldn't have done Apocalypse. They should have done Apocalypse for a reboot. But, you know.
Yeah.
So other things that you guys liked about it, favorites, release favorite scenes and stuff. I already went through everything that I had. Of course, I rambled on like a bastard, but anything you guys want to bring up?
I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I did not know that Edward Furlong was an unknown actor by then, because he did a really good job. And I just really like his whole interaction with the Terminator, because he's still a kid, you know, and like the scene with the 80s strong guys who first want to protect him, and then the blonde one gets mad or whatever. Like, that's such a cool scene to me, because it's almost like, oh, you know, this little kid probably got in trouble in school, and he never had a chance to really stood up to, like, the big guys, and now he has a freaking Terminator on his side, and he can get away with anything.
This guy, I can't believe him. He's calling me a dipshit.
I think that, I mean, again, it's a great movie. It has, I believe, the right amount of story and action, even when, you know, action-wise it drags down a little bit, like you guys mentioned. I think that's still good, because we get a chance to see all the other sides and get to know the characters a little bit more, even though, you know, we feel like we do know them. But there's so many layers to Sarah Connor that I just feel that moment, like, I really loved it. And I mean, yeah, it's probably one of my favorite non-horror movies ever, which speaks a lot, because I'm very biased to horror movies in general. And yeah, I did cry at the end. I cried when he said the line about, "No, I know why you're crying." It's like, it's just, oh man, it's not a lot of action movies nowadays can do that to you, you know? And that shows how strong it is.
You reminded me of another little side note. That scene where they're driving in the car and she asks him about Miles Dyson.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts talking about, you know, this is what happened at Judgment Day. They shot missiles at Russia. And he's like, oh, isn't Russia our friends now? And then Russia fires back. Arnold couldn't remember it. So there's actually note cards taped to the dashboard that he's reading
awesome.
from. Because he just couldn't remember all the shit.
Oh, Arnold.
What about you, Sam? Any favorite or least favorite parts we haven't talked about?
Nah. My least favorite is probably that cringy scene where he's like standing up to those two guys, just because he knows the Terminator's there. Like it's a cool scene, but it's a cringy scene. Like I'm watching it, like, oh man, who wrote the dialogue here? but then like.
You just can't kill human lives. Why? Because you just can't. Why? Because you just can't, okay?
Right. But then, some of my favorite scenes are, like, the emotional scenes with, like, the Terminator and stuff, and realizing, like, it's basically becoming sentient. And then it dies. Like, it's not even it's killed in action. It knows it has to die.
Yeah.
And it even knows it's gonna upset John, and it makes him feel better about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, that's probably one of my favorite parts.
And you know, that's also an interesting point, because it cannot self-destruct, but he is aware that he needs to sacrifice himself for the greater good.
And it's like, it's begging
amazing.
to die.
Yeah, that is just like, I even got goosebumps just now. It's beautiful.
A weird thing where, like, he shouldn't care, and that's like, they mention it in the series, essentially. Like, every once in a while, somebody will, like, the TV show and stuff will be like, well, you know, does it matter if, like, any of this happens? And they're like, well, it's my mission, you know, that's what I'm here for and stuff. But you wouldn't think that he would care about, like, what happens with the human race, other than the fact that it's his mission. He's there to protect John, and John's protected, and now he really could do anything, but he knows that that's not the right thing to do. And earlier on in the movie, when they show the pictures to Sarah Connor, and they're like, look, this is the guy that shot up that police headquarters. You know, you're just sitting here and you're not telling us anything. And the guy goes, doesn't this mean anything to you? Don't you even care? Because she's the Terminator at that point, you know. So she doesn't even seem to care, but the Terminator does. Of course, later on she does, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a good way to do that in the movie.
Yeah.
But, Caroline, what would you give it out of a 10?
I'll say 9.5, just because I don't think I'd give 10s. Just because. But that's just like a stupid rule. I don't know where it came from, but I love the movie. It's a movie that I would never get tired of watching it, and I'll probably still cry every time I watch it. It's just,
if you watch
really
that extended edition, you might.
I mean, yeah, I'm such a baby. I cry for every stupid shit. I'm pretty sure I would bawl for a week. I'm still reeling from Littlefoot's mom dying, like, and it's been so long since I've seen that movie, but you know. Yeah.
Sam, you said you give it a 9?
Yeah, I definitely give this a 9. It's up there with some of, like, my favorite movies. It's not the kind of movie that I can just pop in and watch, because if I catch it not from the beginning, I'm actually disappointed, and I'll wait to see it from the beginning.
It's the type of movie that if I'm flipping through channels and I see a shot of, like, a boot, I'm like, oh, Terminator. It's really, really sad. But speaking of sad things, I know why you're crying, and it's not because the Terminator's gone. It's because Terminator 3 is next on our list.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately, we do have to talk about that one, so stay tuned. We will be back with Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.